Hey guys, Sean coming at you here with a promised, it was in another video, but a promised video about painting flames on a Mini. Now a lot of people have done this, and they're probably all better painters than me, but that's kind of what I wanted to give you was the simple man's way to paint flames. I mean, I've looked at other people's, and this is how I do it. It's gonna be very similar, but you're going to kind of see the process I go through and some of the maybe little differences I do. I'm not a perfectionist. I want it to look good, but I also want to put these minis on the table soon. I want to play with them. So here we have a skink from the Pterodon Riders. He's wearing the using the Sun Bola. So this is our fire right here. So normally you would prime these in black, which is good, but I have not done that. I primed in white because I actually haven't painted too much fire before, and I didn't even think about it. So what we're going to do is we're still going to do some of the same basic steps, and I'll go through each paint I'm going to use and what I'm doing and like the process. So first thing we're going to base it, and I'm actually going to show off a little bit. I have an Army Painter white palette, and we're going to base this flame in Mephiston Red. And we use a small layer brush and Mephiston Red. I'm going to put that on the, and actually I'll show this a little bit so you guys can see how I work. And this new Army Painter wet palette. Wet palettes are great for cumulative paints, right? Get the Mephiston Red on, just going to dab it on. And swirl around a little bit. I'm using a small layer brush right now because at the base of this Sun Bola, you see, there's these little parts right here that I don't really want to get red, that black section. So I'm going to take a little bit, I'm going to dab a little bit of water onto my paintbrush and then mix it in. Spin it around to get a point. Alright. And now we're going to work. Take a little bit of paint, just get onto that white area. Now if it overlaps a little bit of the black, I don't mind too much. Again, we're not looking for perfection here. Sorry for the quick edit. I had to notice I was out of frame and that it was focusing on my paint. So again, we're using that small layer brush just to get the edges at this bottom done right now, because I don't want to get rid of all that black, which is like the weapon part. So once I get this part done, I just want to keep it, make sure you have a decent amount of paint. We're going to move to a larger basing brush. Actually, I'm looking. You don't want to really rub a... Once your paint gets dry, it can mess up the bristles if you just kind of like... You're basically dry brushing at that point. And dry brushing is very bad for the paintbrush. That's why when you always just see people recommend when you dry brush, use an old brush. I use specifically designed brushes. Alright, so we got the base coat from that smaller area. So to make this a little faster, I'm going to clean off my brush. I'm going to switch to a slightly bigger base brush. This is from the GW line. So this is a medium base brush. It's got a flatter tip. So get that on there. And much faster. So yeah, like I was saying, there's other painters who do this that are a million times better than me. Why is that one not where? There we go. A little piece there wasn't painting. A million times better than me. But it's kind of what I wanted to bring to the painting community. It's not that it's like really needed, because there's bad painters everywhere, but there's good painters everywhere as well. It's just this kind of like an average man's painter. I am good. We're not going to talk like my therapist and like I need to be better than myself. But I can always do better. I can always learn. But that's a lot of times you don't see that process on a lot of these YouTube videos. You don't see these people, they're already good, or they're already they're already really good, and then like they just get more amazing. It's like, I don't know. I don't have an accurate metaphor for it. But yeah, they're already like really good at the brush strokes, or they're really good at airbrushing. And that's something like airbrushing. I have an airbrush. I've attempted to use it, and I'm not good at it. And it's requires a lot of maintenance that I'm not equipped to deal with right now, because my sink and all my kind of stuff is not in the same area as my workplace. And I'm going to tell you right now, I'm a lazy son of a gun. So like for me to break down, clean it, to switch to different colors and all that kind of stuff is really going to be a hassle. So until I get into a space where I'm have a little more of my utilities, I'm not going to worry about airbrushing. Also, it's kind of neat to be a brush painter in an airbrush world. This makes me sound real rebellious, but honestly, it's just laziness. You know, you can hide, attempt to hide who you are, but I'm not going to. I am lazy, which is why I like contrast paints. A big thing that people are not debating, but to me, contrast paints really speed up a lot of my basing process. Alright, so it's applying thin layers. I'm doing the general want is 2 thin layers, and that's something I'm doing more and more. It's something that I didn't do. I was like, I'm just gonna do one. Again, laziness. But with me becoming better, I'm like, oh, okay, I really see the clean look people get out of 2 thin layers. Alright, so it's basically 2 thinnish layers. Probably do a little more at the top of the flame. Boop, boop. So we're going to let that dry. We're going to go into our next color. I'm going to clean off the brush. Alright, so the base coat of that red is done. Now we're going to apply a layer of Wild Rider Red. Now, if you notice, I hadn't talked about shading. Generally, when you put your base coat down, you want to shade it as well. But this is fire. Shading adds shadows. Fire creates shadows. So you're not really gonna have to shade anything. I mean, there's glazing you can do, which we're gonna do a little bit of it just by a byproduct of painting it. So I'm gonna start up at the top a little bit more here. And you see, I'm just painting over my old scheme. But I'm going to go up a little, almost not all the way, because guess what? Fire, and this is something I had to I know this. I've done science. I've done in science classes. Fire gets colder as it gets towards the edges because it's hottest at its center. So the cold regions are going to be up towards the top. And that's where we're going to focus our darker colors on. But we've already put a very dark color on. Mephisto Red, that's like the dark red glow of any fire. And what's kind of nice about this process is that, I'm going to switch to a layer brush here soon, is that you don't have to be exact. Like, there's no you must go 4/5 in an inch up the flame to make it accurate. It's just, hey, no, just go up a bit of the flame. Just don't cover the whole base coat in the flame. You're estimating, and it's kind of like just being creative. It's somewhat freeing to not have to like. Because paint by numbers is fun and it can be very cool. But like, it's nice to just let your mind do what it wants to do. All right. This is a good little layer. A little more down here. I'm trying not to resort to my layer brush just yet. And it looks like I can do it. Nah, I'm gonna get in there. I want to be. This is for video. I should be showing you guys the safe way, not the unsafe way. So there's one of the areas so you'll get that nice coverage. But here I want to focus more on the tops. Actually, there is something I'm going to need to do with my layer brush as well. So I'm going to put that down. Clean off my base brush. You always want to clean off your brushes. You don't want to get paint in that little metal part. I forgot what it's called. But it's an important part. Wild Rider Red. Yeah, Wild Rider Red. I think I saw someone called Wild Rider Orange and I got really confused. Like, wait a minute. There's a Wild Rider Orange too? So just need to get that little bit in there just to get it close. Yeah. This is getting real delicate. So you really don't want any of that red, especially at the bottom. The flame is going to be the hottest. I don't want any of that red sticking through. I want it to be light. So we're going to give it a background color because this is why you prime and why you base in colors. You want the background color to kind of shine through in some situations. So a real quick thing I'm going to do is I'm going to paint a little line up on the edges. Just a little bit. Just kind of like it's reaching out. Because flames flicker and grow. You really want them to do that. You want to simulate your best you can. Again, there are people who are way better than this than me, and you notice I'm not paying too close attention to like the bottom layers because I'm just going to paint over them. But I want to give them a good brightish base coat. Up, up, up. And line. And line. There we go. So that flame heat is reaching up. Alright. So now we're going to move on to our second color. And I'm actually going to do this while it's still kind of wet, because it kind of starts to blend the colors in a little bit. And this is a very, very crude way to wet blend, which is where you would generally, while the paint's wet, you mix in another color to like try to blend them together. Wet blending, you know, not to be like completely, you know, I just described the word I just said, but generally it's two different colors or two very contrasting colors, where we're now using kind of like light colors. And so from the bottom, let's make sure it's gonna, oh, I got a little fuzz on there. Oh, there we go. Alright, it's gonna take that out. Boop, boop. And there we go. And boop, boop. And it's gonna blend that up. Again, this one we're not going all the way up. Just going partially. And if you notice, like when I brush stroke, it's not like long strokes. It's little tiny strokes. It's different from normal painting in that way. I mean, you can do long strokes if you're trying to, like, there's a certain technique you're trying to do. But generally you do that, and this, like, the brush strokes kind of shine through a bit more. So this is kind of helps it make it more realistic, is when you get like swiping it on there. To me, it feels natural too as you're painting. Maybe it's because I've watched so many painting videos, and that's also something to recommend too. Like I said, I'm average Joe, Florida guy, average Florida guy. You know, well, minus the the meme craziness. I've done some things in my life, no doubt, but those are for other stories. But average Florida guy that just wants to paint, and I kind of want to show you guys how an average guy does it. Like, you come off work, and it's like, come paint. It's not a big, this is my job. I've done commissions. I think I did well on them. But something that I realized when I was doing the commissions, something important happened around that time too, so I had to stop. But I wasn't painting the things I wanted to paint. There was cool things. I did some really neat Death Troopers and Jango Fett, but like some of the things, like I like the concept, but I didn't want to do it. And like I said, remember, I'm lazy. I still did a good job on it because that's what the person paid me for. But I realized it's just not what I wanted to do. I wanted to just enjoy my hobby. So this time we're going to let it dry, and I'm actually going to reapply. Let's see, I'm going to take a look. How far does it go? Go up a little further, go up a little further. There we go. So I'm going to reapply because I really want that brighter orange towards the bottom. I want to say right now too, like trying to get this in camera is one of the more difficult ways I've ever tried to paint. Again, that sounds very complaining. It kind of is, but working within a confined space. I usually like I'll hug my miniatures real close to me while I paint. All right, that's a decent transitioning. So let me get a little bit right. Blend it a little bit more. Blend. All right. So we're gonna let that dry, and we're gonna go on to the next step. All right, now that's all dry. The next color we're gonna use is Uriel Yellow. Let's shake up the pot. Nope. Put a little bit on the wet palette. The nice things about wet palettes, you generally don't have to add too much water to thin them out, because the wet palette itself is putting moisture into the paint. Alright. And we're going to focus on this bottom part much more. A little line right there, because inside the flame is going to be where the hottest point is. So we want to make sure the flame looks hot. More paint. Get this part right here. Really want to make those recesses appear brighter. So Because again, where the flame is where we were. Now I'm getting some on that little metal black part. But again, I don't mind, because there's going to be flames overtaking this weapon of slinging sun death. Just gonna drag that up, blend it in a little bit to the orange. Yeah, cool, I got not too bad. Alright, and it's going to start working on that second layer. Just add a few little creases, or the flame will be hot. Because you can tell, especially with yellow is very translucent. You need a lot of layers to make yellow work. It's one of the most feared colors when applying to a model in a lot of ways. Because you see it's translucent. A lot of that orange is still kind of sticking through that yellow. Now we're going to do something, again, similar to what I did before. Clean off my brush though. Is I'm going to add another layer of Flash Gets Yellow. Now, some people don't use as many colors, and I found I kind of like the different levels. I'm still going to do it while it's a little wet, because it blends nice. Alright, we're going to focus that. Make my point. So right on the bottom of that flame. Make a line. The recesses. So yeah, it's kind of like reverse shading. Because in the recesses, you actually want the brightest part. For shading, you're going to want the darkest part in the recesses. Now you want the brightest part. It's kind of a concept that's a little weird, especially for beginner painters to tackle, because everything about miniature painting is getting the shade and shadow in those recesses, getting that contrast on the model. And then you get to a flame, like, oh yeah, those recesses gotta be bright. They gotta be bright as heck. Alright. So, I think that went pretty well. We're not done yet. Just a little bit of that in there at the base. You want towards the base to make it look nice. Oh. Dog is upset. I think I mentioned too, like, yeah, I have a bunch of dogs, so I'm gonna try to, not get you guys to have a whole puppy panic parking attack. But if it happens, I will try to stop it. But otherwise, you're kind of at the mercy of my house. Alright, so that's got to dry a little bit. And we'll come back and apply the final little layers. Alright, so for the last little bits, we're going to use Ceramite White and Abaddon Black. Ceramite White is a very, 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 in my case, a chunky white, apparently, to shake it up. You really got to shake up these paints, otherwise that pigment will really start to coalesce together. Oh, hey. Shh. Enough of you two. Doggy fight. I'm kidding, they're not fighting this. Talking to each other. Ceramite White. It's a little bit thick on my wet palette right now, so I'm actually going to thin down a little bit. A good deal bit. So we don't want a crap ton. We just want a little bit. So take a model, find the very base of this. A little bit of white in those recesses. Let's bring the highlights layer at the base. Not being particularly too neat. See? Very basic. So, actually, I used too much paint for that, unfortunately. But now, do something a little different. We're going to dry brush, have it on black onto the edges. And so, for dry brushing, I'm going to kind of show you how I do it. You can tell me if I'm wrong, tell me if I'm right, tell me if I'm using too much paint. I don't know. So I'm going to take it. So I popped open. So let me, there's the ceramite white. There's the ceramite white. Now using have it on black. A little bit on my dry brush. Like that. And then just wipe down. You want to wipe away. You don't want much pigment on the brush. And I usually use my thumb. Let's see how much I got there. So that's not bad. So now, take those edges. Just gonna dry brush. All edges. Just these cold parts. Just the cold parts. Focusing more on that tip, obviously. Let's do a little light. There we go. And that is basically a completed flame. Now I'm gonna, again, guys, watch that while I wash off my brush, because dry brushing again. Bad for brushes, but I have specific brushes to dry brush. Alright. So that is basically a completed flame effect. Now, we didn't really shade much. We didn't shade at all, to be honest. Because, again, we're making things brighter. It's a little bit contradictory. So we started that bright yellow, went up, or you did the whole base coat, the Mephiston red. Then we did the Wild Rider red next, covering most of it. Then the Fire Dragon bright, the Uriel yellow, Flash gets yellow, kind of mixing it in the end, and the Ceramite white in those little pockets where it's going to be the hottest. So again, this isn't super detailed. I didn't super glaze a bunch of things. You can really do that to make a detailed flame much, much better. But I wanted something basic I can put on my models that still looks good. From a distance, you're getting the close-up views, so you're going to see a lot more of the, just the kind of like rash way I put things on. But from a distance, this is going to look really cool. And actually, I have a glued-on Pterodon rider. So you see a Pterodon rider, and then you got the flame. Did that? Yes, it's still kind of the same effect. This one got a little bit more of a creamy blend. I didn't do as much dry brushing. And so what I'll do is I'll kind of show you how that looks from a distance. So now you can see my Pterodon riders. The guy does have a Sunbola. He's kind of leaning in, ready for a fight. But if you take a look at it, like I say, it doesn't, not too from far away. Zooming out there, the flame just looks like a flame. You don't have to go in super detail for a lot of these miniatures to make them look really good. That's something I'm always going to harp on for you guys. You're always going to hear me say, I got the paper towel behind just to give that little bit of contrast. So it's not just my paints. You don't have to have things perfect to make it look nice. So thank you all for joining me on how to paint those flames. Again, very basic flames. I wanted to show you the average man's way to do it. Not the super high detailed, super different levels of glazing. Just make it look good. And so good for your tabletop gaming. And you can work on those extra details later. Well, thank you all for coming. Thank you all for watching. Like and subscribe if you want to see more. And ring that bell if you want to make sure you see like when these come. Because I'm going to try to do general regular updates, but my painting schedule is a little bit different. Thank you all. Have a great day.